We're less than 75 days away from Election Day, which is crazy to think about, not only here in Georgia, but across the United States. One of the races we're keeping a close eye on is Georgia's 14th congressional district. That seat currently held by Republican Clay Fuller, and it was previously held by former Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. Shawn Harris, the Democrat in the race, is hoping to secure a 2-year term after losing to Fuller in a special election. 11Alive's Zach Merchant spoke to Harris about his campaign earlier today. Let's listen in.
So let's get right into it here. We are now months into the conflict in the Middle East. The war in Iran continues. Early on in this conflict, you were pretty vocal in opposition to it. We're now months into it. Where do you stand now?
Yeah, I hadn't changed one bit. You know, the reality, I said several months ago that from a military point of view, we could definitely win this war. But if we didn't watch it from a political point of view, we could lose it. And that is clearly what's happening right now. Iran clearly has us in a bad situation with the Strait of Hormuz. And President Trump is running out of options. And those options are all turning out to be very bad. So like I said many times before we actually get into another forever war, we need to make sure that we understand why we're in it, and then exactly how we're going to win it, and then exactly how we're going to get out of it. And those things wasn't actually discussed before going into this one.
If you win this race, if you get elected to Congress and you go to D.C., what specifically would you do to accomplish that goal? What would you do to try to bring this war to a resolution?
Yeah, you know, Zach, thank you for that question. Doing 40 years in the military and then also doing time in Afghanistan, leading troops on the battlefield, the first thing I would always make sure is before I get any of our young people into another war, make sure that we have the president and this administration or any administration, I don't care if they're Democrat or Republican, before we get into a war, they got to come in and explain to Congress and explain to the American people why we're actually getting this war. Good Lord bless me to get to Congress. I will hold this administration accountable, have them come in and tell us what we're doing, what is the strategy to get out of it. But ultimately, before we give another dime to the Pentagon, we need to make sure that we understand what is the real purpose of this war, and then how do we plan to win it? And then ultimately, how do we plan to get out of it? Because as you know, this week while I'm talking to you, the U.S. Lincoln is on his way back home. But the reality of it is, was totally disservice to say that those troops or Marines was just whining. The reality of it is, we can do better as a country, and we need to take care of all our troops, no matter where they're at in the world.
Let's switch gears and talk about another topic, perhaps a little closer to home. We've seen it flare up certainly here in Georgia, but we're far from the only state with this issue at the front of our political discourse. We're talking about data centers right now and artificial intelligence. There have been some calls, limited calls, but some, Senator Bernie Sanders is one of them, who proposed the idea at the congressional level, the federal level, of a 1-year data center construction moratorium. If you win this race and you go to Congress, would you support a 1-year moratorium on new data center construction?
Yeah, you know, the reality of it is, I don't know what that politician that you mentioned there said. What I would tell you, what Shawn Harris has said right here in the district, and you can talk to Democrats and Republicans throughout the 14th. I've actually said 6 weeks or 6 months ago that we needed to have a 1-year pause. That's what I call it, a 1-year pause, to give Congress time enough to put some guardrails, and at the same time, give the state time to put some guardrails so that when our city councils and our county commissions are making decisions at the local level, they have the tools that will help them make those decisions. What I'm happy to announce is many places here in the 14th, Paulding County and other places, have actually moved to that 1-year pause. And the good thing is, people are saying Shawn Harris has stood up, took a position. I'm going to vote for this guy regardless if he's a Democrat. So what I would tell you right now, we have support on both sides of the House. And if you notice, my opponent Clay has not said one word about data centers, one word about anything, to be honest with you, because like I said in our debate a while back, he sold his soul to Donald Trump. And Donald Trump is now saying that everybody needs to have a data center in their backyard.
Yeah, Mr. Harris, let's talk about some specifics here. You talked about calling for a 1-year pause to set up some guardrails to help municipal governments make more informed choices. What specifically would those guardrails look like?
Yeah, one or two things. One, to make sure that when we put these data centers in, who's actually paying the light bill? Who's actually controlling, making sure the water is going to always be safe? And then where are the actual places where a data center should go or could go? Because right now, in some of our counties, guardrail data centers are being put directly behind houses, 250 feet away from houses. And on top of that, farmers are coming to me concerned about who's going to control the level of water. And so these are the type things that I want to make sure that's in place so that when we actually get these data centers, and let me be clear, data centers are coming. We just got to do our part as leaders to make sure that we think through this and not move too fast, and make sure that we take care of our local communities. Because as you know, here in the 14th, we're already dealing with PFAS. So the last thing we need to do is add on to a problem that we already have.
Let me ask you about this sort of new frontier in the world of technology from the other end of the conversation too. Obviously, a lot of the focus has been on data centers, the physical structures that house
Yes.
the server racks that power this new technological frontier. But a lot of what it's powering is AI and AI models.
Yes.
And they continue to grow and evolve and get more powerful and more quick in their ability to perform all the different things that they do. A few weeks ago, OpenAI, the maker of ChatGPT and one of the major players in the artificial intelligence space, a few weeks ago, OpenAI admitted one of its models broke out of a testing environment it was supposed to be securely kept in and then hacked another company. When you look at how technology is advancing in the AI space, what role, if any, should Congress play in regulating AI use and AI development?
Yeah, like most people, when they look at my military career, they see the infantry, they see all kind of other things. But I did some years on the cyber side of the house, and so I clearly understand what is currently going on. And to answer that question from a Congress point of view, at this point, Congress has not did one thing to put any guidance out there on any of these things. What we need to do is make sure, because not only did we have that one incident that you're talking about there, less than 2 weeks after that, we had another company had a system that jumped out. Right now, we need to make sure that we're putting the systems in place so that Apple, Google, whoever, we can put some control measures around it, because the question then gets out, if it jumps out, but then they can't stop it, what then is the problem? And if we can't stop ours, what breaks into another country's national system? These are the things that we need to get our hands around. These are the things that we need to make sure we send in people to Congress that clearly understand it. But we also need to send congressmen to DC that's going to have backbones, that's not taking money from the AI companies. And I think that's where the problem lies right now. Too many people being paid off by the AI companies, and that's why we don't have any guidance that controls what they're doing.
Are you willing to promise right now that you will not accept any contributions from anybody or any company associated with the AI industry?
100%. As the candidate, I pride myself that I don't take all the money that comes to me is 100% from hardworking people giving me $5, $10, $15. I think our average price now is roughly about, our donation is roughly about $23.75. My opponent is, I hate to say it, but he's taking money from all kind of organizations, and it's just embarrassing. And it is proven that 4 or 5 months that he was up in D.C., he did absolutely nothing for Northwest Georgia. And I look forward to it. I say it right here on your show. I look forward to debating him again, because I believe that the people here in Northwest Georgia need to see us again, talk about the issues, and make sure that they understand the difference between our leadership. He's a leader that has sold his soul to Donald Trump, and I'm a leader that stands to focus and work 100% for the people here in Northwest Georgia. Something I always say is this: I only work for the individual, their kids, and their grandkids. Those are the people that I work for, and that is my boss. I would never sell my soul to any company or any president, regardless of Democrat or Republican.
Let's switch gears here. Let's talk about the economy a little bit. Always another major topic in our
It's
politics
bad.
and in our lives. The United States hit a major milestone this week. The national debt tipping over $40 trillion. If you're elected to
Yes.
Congress, what would you do to address that?
I'll do You know, Zach, you and I have talked in the past how Republicans recruited me in the very beginning to run against Marjorie Taylor Greene. What I would do when I get to Congress, I would put on that old time Republican hat and say, wait a minute, guys, this deficit has got completely out of control. We got to pull this thing back back under control and get the deficit back down. No different than we do at our homes with our trying to develop our budgets. Right now, the big beautiful bill that we passed at one point less than 6-7 months ago was at $35 trillion. The big beautiful bill added another $5 trillion to it, and you're right. Yesterday, we went over 40 trillion, and it is still growing. And that 40 trillion does not even take in consideration what they're actually asking from the Department of War for this war that we're in of choice. So, bottom line, when I get to DC, I will be the Democrat that's working across the board with everybody saying, okay, we have to get this budget or get this debt under control, and we all own it. So it is our job now to actually get it under control, because if not, we are selling out, not our kids, we're selling out our grandkids, because this debt is completely out of control.
You talk about having to make some tough choices to rein in the federal budget. That would involve making some cuts. Where would you look to make some of those cuts to start to eat into the debt? Would you look at national security spending, social safety net spending, or somewhere else?
I will have to tell you, because I spent all those years in the military, and I will support our veterans and our soldiers 100%. But I know for a fact it is some areas that we actually have some fat on the bone that we can make cuts into our defense spending. So that would be the first area. I will not touch Social Security, because our elderly have worked hard and they have deserved it. They're going to keep it. But what I will say to you is this. Just like the president said when he first got on board with Doge, how they were supposed to come in and do all these cuts, I don't see where those cuts actually happen. I believe those cuts were nothing more than a whole bunch of talk. And on top of that, we have done a whole bunch of other additional spending. So to just answer your question right up front, the number one place that I would be looking to make cuts is actually inside of defense. But when I would make those cuts, it will not hurt our soldiers at any given point. It will not put us in a situation that we can't win wars. But I do know for a fact, it is some areas inside of our defense spending that it is some areas that we could cut and go from there. It is waste inside of our defense programs.
You mentioned something a moment ago I want to circle back to and spend a second talking about here. You mentioned that early on in your political career, you say you were recruited by some Republicans to run as a Republican in the 14th Congressional District. Obviously, you're in this race as a Democrat right now, but there's a lot of talk right now about what the future looks like for the Democratic Party in some of the midterm primaries we've seen in the last few weeks across the country. We've seen some more centrist Democrats winning their races. We've also seen some progressive, left-leaning Democrats, some people aligned with or self-identified as Democratic Socialists winning their races. It's a wide spectrum inside the party. You represent seemingly a different component of it than the Democratic Socialists and the progressive wings. What's the path forward? What's the right model for Democrats to follow in 2026?
Well, you know, I will say this. I can't speak for the entire Democratic Party, but what I can say is this. The Democratic tent is very big. And what I can say for Shawn Harris and where I stand and where the district that I'm trying to represent, I am a moderate Democrat that is willing to reach across the aisle. That being said, I'm willing to reach across the aisle to my Republican brothers and sisters, to my independents. But at the same time, if we have a wing of the Democratic Party that is a little bit different from me, I'm also willing to work with them, because when I go to DC, I'm only going to DC to get things done. I think right now what's happening in DC is everybody's running to be on TV and be a celebrity versus being a leader and getting things done. So when it comes to the Democratic Party, if somebody want to call themselves this or call themselves that, my benchmark for them is, if you make it to DC, I want to see your work and what you actually going to get done. And for us to get something done, regardless if we take everything, we take the Senate back, we take the House back, we still going to have to reach across the aisle and work with our Republican brothers and sisters to actually get things done. And I think that's what the Republicans actually forgot, because right now they run the White House, they run the Senate, and they run the House of Representatives. And at this point, they get absolutely nothing done. So what I'm saying to our Democrats, when we get there, take off all those other T-shirts and put on your work shirt and get something done, period.
We've covered a lot of ground here. Always want to be respectful of your time. So I think this is a good place to end it with the question we always end these kinds of interviews with. To an undecided voter out there still making up their minds, your elevator pitch to them would be what?
Yeah, it's very simple. My name is Shawn Harris. I've actually lived here in our district for quite some time now. I'm a cattle farmer. I did 40 years in the military. I'm a combat veteran. And when I wake up in the morning, my focus is 100% on yourself, your kids, and your grandkids. Nobody else. My focus is on Northwest Georgia, period. And that's when I go to Washington, D.C., is what I'm going to be laser focused on. And I promise you, if you give me your vote, I will bring back results that will bring generational jobs. But on top of that, I will make sure I work every day that we can bring down this debt and make sure that your kids actually have a future and you can actually have good quality health care across the board.